and welcome to talkBULL, your weekly Premier League darts podcast coming to you every single Friday until the end of May. My name is Harry Durham, and with me is former world number one Colin Jaws. Lloyd, coming up, we'll look back on Nottingham. What an incredible night of darts it was, where GERWEN Prize took the plaudits. Cool hand Luke Humphries is no longer at the top of the table. We'll also look ahead to all of the action in Cardiff next week. I've just got to start by saying Gezi last night, 2 nightly wins to his name, putting pressure on the boys at the top. Kicked off with Littler versus Humphries. It was explosions all over the place. Like, you actually thought there was a nuke in Nottingham, but a nuke actually went off in Nottingham. Cool hand drops down to second spot the night where the ball took an absolute battering. It was one of the greatest nights of the Premier League season so far for those ton-plus checkouts. Colin, Lloyd, I think we got spoiled last night to a little bit of a, ton-plus spectacle.
Good morning, Harry.
Good morning.
Did we ever, mate? It was not only a spectacle of power scoring, but like you say, the finishing. And how many finishes ended up with a bullseye finish?
Yeah.
Ball, 167, 164, 87. So it was just unbelievable. But do you know what, Harry? Were we treated to something special, or is that what we expect?
I think it was something special. Like, we're going to get on to Luke Littler, but what was it? It felt, 4 ton-plus checkouts, 5? Rob Cross, Jesus wept. You had to feel sorry for the boy. He weren't even playing badly, for God's sake. Luke Littler, and I've said it before, the T-1000 from Terminator 2, it was just remarkable what he did. But Cole, we have to start with a nightly winner. It's only fair. Gezi Price, unbelievable display last night from the Iceman. Sensational at the weekend in Belgium as well. Just couldn't get over the line. And you know what? You see a lot with Gezi going into 2025. We know that he's a new man. He said before, I am no longer a villain. And I think some of his issues this year so far is just remaining that focus. Remember at the UK Open when he got knocked out by our great friend and friend of the show, Connor Scutt. But he was locked in last night, Cole. Beating Bunting and MVG on the way to the final. Beautiful 1-4-1 to go 2-1 up against Bunting. Crowd having absolutely none of it, by the way. And that's what I love. That's what I love. Gezi was just getting, I wouldn't even say dogs abused by the Nottingham crowd, but mammoth checkouts, and it was like you were playing in front of no one, for God's sake. But listen, Cole, 1-2-8 against MVG and going 5-0 up. 5-0 up against Michael. Absolute joke. And one thing I want to ask you, did you notice in the 6th leg, was it, I think it was in the final, he goes for a 180 and he had one arm up thinking that he was going to get it, then it just went into a 140.
Yeah. It's funny when that happens, but I mean, he's trying to make light of things, Harry, isn't he? He is the pantomime villain of darts. Unfortunately, I think for Gezi, he's never going to shake that tag. But you know what? Let's just appreciate, and I've said this before, Harry, in pods and in interviews and whatever, let's just enjoy Gezi Price, because when he's in that sort of mood like last night, there was a couple of times in the final where if like Bobby said last week, if he'd have done this, if he'd have done that, it could have been a different story. Well, he didn't. And when, for me personally, Harry, when Gezi's in full flow, I think he's an absolute joy to watch, because he power scores, he finishes, and I like it that he gives it a raw.
Yeah, same.
But, people don't appreciate that sometimes. They're saying you're putting the other player off. No, you're not. What about when other players do it? It's not just Gezi does it. Everybody does it. Well, and it's part and parcel of top class sport. You've got to give it a roar.
Think about when I'm down the pub playing with the boys. Obviously, I've got a 50 average at the moment. But when I'm on a madhouse, yeah, and it's taken me at least about 45 darts to hit the double one, I'm going to let out a humongous roar. And I mean, there's levels to this game, but it doesn't matter where you are. Right? If you're on a football pitch, if it's Hackney Marshes or if it's at Stamford Bridge, you're allowed to celebrate. You know what I mean? So give it the big old hoo-ah!
Yeah.
And do you know what I love most? Do you know what I love most about this whole thing? So I said about the crowd yesterday in Nottingham. Nottingham, sensational, by the way. I think from watching it on the telly, one of the best crowds that we've had in the Premier League so far. Next week, we're going to Cardiff, baby. And I tell you, that is going to be absolutely electric for Gezi Price.
Yeah, I mean, Cardiff's great anyway, but it'll be nice for Gezi to play on home soil. He'd perhaps wanted last night, next week. Who's to say he won't do it next week again? Because he is playing extremely well at the minute. And I don't know if you noticed, Harry, in the final, he didn't sort of like do any of that explosive.
No, he didn't.
He just knuckled down and he got on with it. And I think that speaks volumes as to he done it in his interview anyway. How much he respects like Luke Littler, also Luke Humphries and players of that ilk. He just goes up there and gets on with a job. He said you have to assert pressure back if you want to get over the line against these guys. You've got to create chances for yourself, and when you get those chances, you have to take them.
Yeah, exactly.
And he done that last night.
The funny thing you mentioned about the celebration, it was toned down in that final, but was it when he did the delayed one where he checked out and he did a... I was just like, yes, come on. But you need that. You need that, Cole. And I know a lot of people have said that it's gotten stale and there's not enough characters and stuff like that. Gezi Price, I mean, he's just turned 40 in the last week or two. And I hope we can have him as long as possible. You think about Peter Wright, who also celebrated his birthday this week whilst at the Pro Tour, turned 55. I would absolutely love it if we could have Gezi Price for another 15 years. Because I tell you what, the older that he gets and the more younger players that start coming through, it's just going to wind up more people. And we just need that needle. Congratulations to Gezi. It was absolutely top draw. I didn't expect it personally. Luke Littler, let's go straight onto this. I tell you what, some of these stats that I'm going to rattle off, and we know this week, Pro Tour losing to Gian Van Veen, but in the build-up to that, incredible run of form. 19 games unbeaten. Won the Belgian Open, beating Mike De Decker. The 164 checkout against Luke Humphries. Absolutely clutch darts to make it 4-4. Dug deep, levelling it with the 164 as well. And this, I mean, that was explosion kicking off in that first game. But I just listened. I mean, you already know, but against Rob Cross, 167, 164, 127 checkouts all on the ball. I'm putting my head in my hands because it's like that's exactly. As you already know, and the listeners probably know, I've moved into a new house, and my flatmate was just talking at me, and I was there just like, he's gonna hit the ball, and it's almost like I was in a zone of blocking everything out around me, and I just couldn't fathom what was actually happening. 60% checkout rate against Rob Cross as well, and still, I think he had about 3 bounce outs as well. Yeah, I think the first leg, the opener against Rob Cross, he had a bounce out to hit the 180. Listen, he'll be kicking himself with his outer ring performance against Gezi Price, but more points on the board. He's at the top of the table. I saw, and we've mentioned this before. Do you think that I don't know, he blew all of his steam against Rob Cross, and then it was like trying to get himself up for it again for Gezi?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's that sort of person or that sort of player. I think he just gets on with the job in hand. Like you say, he just had a little bit of a mare on the outer ring. The inner ring, the middle of the board, was his absolute friend last night, because you stand there, Harry, and when you're playing someone that keeps doing that, you're standing behind and you think, you can't do it again. Bang. Then you stand there, you can't do it again. You surely can't. Bang. And he does it again. And you're thinking, you've got to be kidding me. You're hitting the smallest segment on the board and you're hitting it comfortably and with no fuss and anything else. And it gets demoralising. Like you said at the start of the show, you know, poor old Rob Cross, he didn't play bad. No. But he must have just been thinking to himself, come on, just hit a 25 and give me a shot. But, you know, he wasn't as consistent as he had been in the final. I've got to say that. But I'm not going to take away the performance of Gezi Price last night, because he put in some solid displays himself.
And I mean, Littler's had a great couple of weeks, regardless, anyway. So losing in the final was probably only fair. The darting gods looking down on Gezi Price, talking about the UK Open. You're talking about Belgium as well, and talking about Premier League nights. And I mean, even watching him against Mike De Decker last Sunday, when he was just playing tricks on the camera. I think it was Rob Malarkey and Paul Nicholson on comms duty in Belgium. Yeah. And he just lined up the 170 just to take it out to win the match. And everyone's expecting him to do it. And he just thought, nah, I'm just going to toy with all of you. And, you know, you're talking about this scoring power in these high time plus checkouts. How long until we really say that he's the best, like, ever at taking those? If he consistently does that, those 167s, the 170s, the 164s, I mean, he can't. I know it's only early days in his career, but it's just so seamless, Cole.
Yeah, well, I think we need to have another couple of years, Harry, to be fair, because I think Shane Burgess summed it up one time. He goes, Phil Taylor does give you shots. Yeah. 167, 161, 170, 164, because those were the shots you used to have to take out. But people forget as well with Phil, the amount of clutch finishings that he done similar to that, excuse me, it's sort of like forgotten about. Yeah. And that's what used to hurt you with Phil, because you would create yourself some chances and you think to yourself, lovely, I'm on 52, Phil's on 161. Yeah. Pop, pop, bang. Lovely, I'm on 60, Phil's on 167. Pop, pop, bang. And that's how you get demoralised, Harry. And that's what Luke Littler's starting to do now. He's a young man. He's 18 years old. He's so talented and he's so good. But he knows how to put the squeeze on. He knows how to put the squeeze on. And he knows when he takes out those clutch finishes, it's applying so much pressure to your opponent. And he's very, very good at it. And I think he's only going to get better at it.
The rest of the players, not just in the Premier League, but also like on the tour as well, must be thinking, if he's taken out those high checkouts, everyone knows that they've got to be on their A game anyway. They've probably got to be averaging close to 102 to 106, which is just absurd, really. But they must be thinking, Jesus, I've got to hit the ground running, really, because as soon as he hits that region between the fish and a 160 and below, there's possibility that he's going to take it out. There might not be a case where Luke Little is playing down the board and finishing on double tops. You know what I mean? So I think last night is probably the catalyst where he's got more people thinking, bloody hell, right? Even though I'm training 6-7 hours a day on the practice board, I need to go heavier, probably. I need to lock in to all of these numbers if he's going to put up that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a case of the individual, Harry. You know, some people might feel that they can practice for sort of like 6 hours a day and they don't feel they've done enough. I used to do an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day. But I just felt as though when I got there, I'd be switched on. It's about, it was always for me, it wasn't about hitting numbers. It was a case of my arm feeling right. You know, I always used to say, oil in my arm. As long as my arm don't get too stiff and I'm oiled, I'm going to throw okay. And some of these players, I think, if they're people that haven't really practiced a lot throughout their career, why start doing it now? You've got to where you are doing what you're doing, okay, try something new. Try practicing for an extra hour, 2 hours, whatever. But if you feel it's not beneficial to your game, why bother doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Just sometimes it's all in the head, Harry.
Yeah.
Get the head right, get the mind right. Hopefully the darts will flow with it.
I saw on his Instagram this morning, posted on his story 8 days on the road and now back in Warrington. So he's been all over the place. He's been to Belgium.
Yeah.
He's been to Brighton, Nottingham, and also Leicester as well. And he's got the weekend off. And do you know what? If one man deserves a weekend off, it's Luke Littler from the sporting world, that is. We'd all have a weekend off. But listen, the Nuke, top of the table, and rightly so, because it was an unbelievable spectacle yesterday in the Motorpoint Arena, and I was jealous of every single soul that was in there to witness that. Luke Humphries drops down to second off the back of his second quarter-final exit in 2 weeks. Finalist at the Pro Tour this week, losing to Jan van Veen. Early exit at the Belgian Open. Continues to look frustrated with himself, Cole. And I think we could say Littler in that first game as well. First opening game of the night. Yeah, there was some really big hitters. But I think both of them, if you actually rewatched the game, missed out on some important trebles. But, I mean, you're trying to just warm up for the rest of the night when you get into that situation. I mentioned the 164 checkout from Littler. Do you think that was probably the turning point for A, Luke Littler progressing the game, and B, Humphries' head somewhat going off? Because the camera panned on him and he gave like a little smile, like a...
Yeah.
Do you think that was sort of like the thing that changed Luke Humphries' momentum?
Listen, I think it helped Luke Littler an awful lot. Luke Humphries, I think that was just a nod of respect.
Yeah.
A nod of respect to say, that was a great shot. I don't think his head fell off at that moment. He's still thrown exceptionally well. He's just not getting the results that he's accustomed to. I don't think he needs to panic, Harry. No reason to panic. 6 weeks in, he's second in the league. He's got a very comfortable space between himself and fifth place. The ultimate goal, Harry, for the next couple of weeks is to stay in that top four, because from fifth downwards, they're going to start feeling the pressure, because they're the ones that's going to have to start fighting for the points. He's got the points on the board early. Luke Littler's got points on the board early. Gezi has now. MVG has. It's down to the other guys now. They're the ones that have got to start making a push and start making a bit of progression now if they want to be at finals night at the end of the 16, 17 weeks. So I don't think Luke Humphries is showing. We spoke about body language, didn't we? Like last week or the week before. He is showing some emotions. He's showing some body language. But do you know what, Harry? I was there on Tuesday down at the Pro Tour in Leicester. He was in fine spirits. He was in great spirits, saying hello to everyone, shaking everyone's hand, going around the room, catching up with people. And listen, he looked very relaxed. He looked very relaxed.
Is it a TV thing, though? Could it be a TV situation where, obviously, you've got potential on PDC TV to watch 4 games and you might not even be the televised one? Is it a case of you're on Sky Sports, you've got thousands of people watching the arena, thousands of people watching, or even potentially millions of people watching all over the world? Is it a case of, like, even though he's world number one, I'm not saying he's embarrassing himself on television, but he will say... He'll probably feel like if you're in that situation, you're not securing trebles. We know he's not been the greatest 180 hitter of all time. That's just not the way that he plays. A majority of the time, he's always slipping into those 140s. But is it probably that psychology of being like, I'm on telly right now, and the frustrations come out?
Harry, I'll tell you this. I don't want it to be about the Colin Lloyd show or whatever, but when I was world number one, I used to have the general dart fans go, yeah, but you're not the best player in the world. I said, I never said I am. I've never said I'm the best player in the world. I said, but I'm number one for a reason. Well, why is that? Phil's the number one player in the world. I said, no, he's not. I said, I've accumulated more points than Phil. I said, so Phil, unfortunately, isn't world number one. I'm world number one.
Mm.
And sometimes, Harry, you feel as though you have to explain it to people, the Darton fans, the Darton fraternity, as to why you're ranked number one player in the world. And I sometimes feel that Luke Humphries, I'm not saying that he does, but does he feel that pressure? Does he think that he has to justify and he has to put in performance after performance after performance? He has to play well to justify who he is and where he is in the rankings. My answer to that to Luke Humphries is, no, you don't, son. No, you don't. You've been an absolute class act the last 2 to 3 years, and you're number one for a reason. You've won not just umpteen tournaments, Harry, away from the TV. He's won umpteen tournaments on the TV. He's won Grand Slams. He's won Players' Championships. He's won World Championships. Won World Match Plays. It's massive. It's huge. And I don't know, maybe he's just feeling the pinch a little bit. I'm not saying he is, but don't analyse yourself. If I was chatting to him, don't overanalyse yourself, son. You're still a class player.
Yeah.
You're a class act. You're a class person. He's always got time for the fans, always got time for other players. Listen, just keep living the dream. Keep doing what you're doing. You're still going to get results. You don't have to justify who you are and what you're doing in the Darton world because you're a class player.
I think it's just probably the expectation that he puts on himself. Do you know what I mean? That he wants to put on a show, he's world number one, and he will be thinking, I should be knocking this out. You know what I mean? And he can come up with the occasional, or more than occasional, ton-plus checkouts. I mean, the 9 darter the other day, and he hit another 9 darter at the Pro Tour as well.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. I mean, I'm always going to be the biggest fan of Luke Humphries due to us being from the same town, him being a class act, and him.
I didn't know that.
No, and him. I mention it every podcast, and him just being a general nice person. I'm grateful for the amount of time that I've been able to spend with Luke, and I know everything that you just said is absolutely spot on. I would hate to see it like boil over. Do you know what I mean? And I know a lot of them are working with sports psychologists as well. Gez, you were speaking about it yesterday, but I don't know. I'd like to think it wasn't like in his nature to get that frustrated. We'll get frustrated at sport no matter what you're playing, but at the same time, it's just like I just want to see him sort of like bottle it. You just bottle it, like keep it in, keep the frustrations. Can we see him swearing at the board if it's like buzz off or something like that? And it's just like, come on, like and it's like what Peter Manley said to us a couple of weeks ago. Opponents will see that and feed off it. You know, if you're going into a Pro Tour or you're going into a Euro game at the weekend, if you're going into the Belgian Open, and you see Luke Humphries on your name, you must be thinking, do you know what? I can probably get at him. But listen, it's not all doom and gloom. He may have dropped down to second, but I tell you what, he's still going to be at the O2. And I've said this to him already, win it on my birthday, please, 29th of May. And if anyone out there's got any tickets for me, it's my birthday. Colin, Lloyd, I'm looking at you as well. I'd love you to sort me out. And you get to come as well and spend my birthday with me. Michael Van Gerwen, let's talk about MVG. Some real moments last night where I was like, come on. Oh, Michael. Come on, baby. 5 missed starts at double against Nathan Aspinall. Michael was 3-1 up. Big drought between both players as well, not securing trebles. Still signs of the checking out not being there for MVG.
Yeah.
Easily could have made it 1-1 at the same time. Almost a whitewash against Gezi Price, losing 6-1 in the end. It's getting to a point, Cole, where you don't know which Michael's going to turn up every single week. And I sound bad for saying this because he's a 3-time world champion and he's won the Premier League, 7 times. I'm almost like cringing. It's just, we just can't secure it. And I mentioned those 5 missed starts at double as well. It's almost like head in your hands. And it's, I don't want to sound like dramatic, but it's almost like your hero just being like weak. Do you know what I mean? It's like Superman turning up and being useless, and you're meant to be the one that saves us, And
Yeah.
it's just like, it breaks my heart a little bit. I mean, he's only 35. It's like an old granddad coming out of a Zimmer frame, and you're just like, oh, I remember you in the glory days, mate. I'm finding it hard to watch.
Well, I woke up, Harry, on Tuesday morning, obviously down in Leicester, and went down for my breakfast and whatever. And I sat and had breakfast with MVG and his pal, his driver, guy who looks after him, Mark Smith. And Mark went off back to his room to get ready to go down to the venue. I just sat there chatting with Michael, just chewing the fat as you do. And I just said, "You still enjoy it, Michael?" Yeah, I do, yeah, I still enjoy it. He said, "There's little inconsistencies, but, he said, it'll come good again." And we just chatted there for about half hour. He's still very, very positive.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's all of us. We worry about him and for him. Michael's in a very good headspace, and like I say, I had a nice little chat with him, nice bit of breakfast and whatever. And it was good just to chat with him, and he said a few things, and I just think to myself, inconsistencies have crept in. But do you know what? He's been throwing since he was a kid. Yes, he's only 35, Harry, but you get battle scars. He's competed against the very best his whole life, the best that he's had to throw at him, and he's had to keep raising the bar. And then all of a sudden, Phil Taylor disappeared, and Michael was most definitely the kingpin. He was the man to beat. But then Michael had to hold on to his reign with the likes of Peter Wright, Gezi Price, Rob Cross, now Luke Littler, Luke Humphries, Nathan Aspinall, Michael Smith. All these players coming along wanting to take a little bite out of him. And when you're trying to fend off, as one person, a pack of hounds like that, Harry, that's the way I've got to say it.
Yeah.
A pack of hounds coming at you like that, week in, week out, it drains you, and it takes something away from you. It takes something mentally, not only physically away from you, although Michael would never admit that. It does. I've been there. I've been in that position. And it's tough, mate. It's hard. And the way he just keeps coming back and putting himself in the firing line, you have to respect him for it. But do you know what? Let's just say we've gone to the word if again, Harry. If come the end of this year, Michael Van Gerwen turned around and said, this is not my saying, but I robbed it off of Dave Courtney, "Stop the ride, I want to get off."
Yeah.
Would we be horrible about it? Would we be respectful about it? If he turned around and said, "Listen, I've done my bit in the game. I've enjoyed myself. I've loved every minute of it. But now I want to spend time with my wife and my family. I've been good with my pennies. I've put my pennies away. I'm comfortable. I don't want to do all the travelling anymore. I don't want to keep going here, there and everywhere. And it's just become really difficult now. I can't motivate myself anymore." Do you know what, Harry? Me personally, as a former player, I'd say, do you know what? Fair play to you. Honesty. And do you know what? You'll be in the record books for years. No one can ever take away from you what you've not only done for yourself in the game, but how you've taken the game forward as well and been part of building something unbelievable.
Well, he's been part of, like you mentioned, like 3 separate generations of darts of the Taylor. You talk about the Michael Smith era as well, and you talk about this era of Little and Humphries as well. To answer that as well, I'd have nothing but respect for him. He's won everything there is to win. And you don't want to see a case of like, and I know Michael Smith's having his issues now with his wrists and his arthritis and whatnot. I mean, what was it last weekend at the Belgian Open when he averaged about, I think it was 80 to 86. And you don't, and I mean, he's been unlucky with injuries, Michael Smith, and I'd love to speak to him about it. But you don't want to see someone that you've like idolised for so long just continuing to put themselves out there and getting battered, and he's not necessarily getting battered, but you don't want it to get to a level where someone like Michael Van Gerwen is turning up and it's just to a point where it's like, do you remember when this guy was actually good? Where it's like you want to go out on a high at the top, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying...
I mean, listen, Harry, I just want to reiterate to, our followers and Darton fans and whatever, Michael never mentioned anything at all about walking away from the game of darts or anything like that. This is just me talking out aloud as to how he could possibly be feeling and if he possibly done that.
Yeah.
But like you say, if it's gut wrenching for us, Harry.
Yeah.
I'm over here in Ireland now doing exhibitions, having some fun darts. If it's hard for us, me as a former player, you as a massive darts fan, to watch players who we not only respect but have enjoyed watching over the years, what people have got to understand is, how is that player feeling? I think I said it to you, Harry, when I come down and done some filming with you and Susie. I turned around and said to you, something I used to find so easy, all of a sudden becomes so difficult.
Yeah.
And Harry, that broke me. Inside, that absolutely broke me.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't a competitive player anymore. And it's hurtful. And people, I had people saying to me, oh, is he taking a dive? Is he taking a dive on social media? Oh, you threw that game away. Believe you me, I've never thrown a game in my life. It just wasn't there anymore. And it hurts. And it really hurts. And so when I see these guys struggling from the player that they know they were and the player that they know they can be, to putting in performances that they're absolutely disgusted with themselves, perhaps on social media, people should sometimes remember and respect that and not go for the jugular.
Yeah, and Michael Van Gerwen's not...
You're this, you're that.
He's not a product as well. He's a human being at the same time.
Exactly.
And he's a very successful human being. And I had that I had that conversation with him in Belfast, and I sort of led with, you come back from Thailand, a little break off the back of the World's Finals, losing to Luke Littler. And I was genuinely like, how long have you got left in the sport? And it was just all positive, platonic conversation. But I mean, all of us, I really wish that he can bounce back. You know what I mean? He had an incredible Worlds. He might just have a little bit of a hangover off the back of that at the same time as well. But one person I want to speak to you about as well, Nathan Aspinall, the 148 against Michael Van Gerwen was special. And I put him right up there as well for those clutch ton plus checkouts as well, with like a Luke Littler. When Nathan Aspinall has one of those, I don't know, in the regions of like a 160-ish, a 148 and whatnot, he is one of the players in world darts that I'm like, even if, say he's playing like a Gezi Price and Gezi Price is on like a 60 or a 50 checkout, I back Nathan Aspinall to check out those high numbers. And I said about Luke Littler being up there with those ton plus checkouts, I think Nathan Aspinall's right up there, Cole. And for that sort of like darting ability, I don't think he gets the respect that he deserves, because Nathan Aspinall has unleashed some absolutely clutch darts over the years. Listen, mate,
you're 100% right. And it's not just Nathan Aspinall, Harry. I think if you look at darts in general now, we spoke about it earlier about with Luke Littler not going for the big fish in Belgium. That's because he didn't have to. You look now, Harry, the amount of players now that are playing an opponent. Let's just say it is Nathan Aspinall against Gezi Price. Gezi could be sitting on a 160 and Nathan's sitting on 167. If he's gone 60, 57, there's no way in a million years he's not going to go for the ball. Because Gezi's on 160 and he knows his mindset will be, Gezi's more than capable of taking this out.
Yeah.
And that's what it all boils down to, Harry. It boils down to the mindset of the player. We can flash back to sort of like 1983 when Eric Bristow hit the 17, hit the treble 18, but never went for the ball.
Yeah.
for the 1-2-1 against Keith Deller. Well, Keith calmly walked up and took out the 1-3-8 and he was crowned world champion.
And that's the thing, because he thought he wasn't going to hit it.
Yeah, well, in this day and age, Harry, the players have a different mindset now. They have a different mindset where if the shot's there, they're going for it. And Nathan Aspinall has been, over the years, one of those players to take out, under pressure, big shots like that. But they're all capable of doing it, Harry, aren't they? And that's what makes our game so great and our sport so demanding, that you can't lose concentration in a match, because if you lose that little bit of focus, all of a sudden you're 3 and 4, 1 down.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden then you've got to break back and you have to take out the big shots like what you're saying.
What was it in Glasgow? Glasgow, when he took out the first leg against Rob Cross, when Rob Cross was just faffing about with his double fours, double eights, double 16s, and Nathan was light years behind him. And Nathan ended up winning the leg with like a 1-6-2 checkout or something stupid like that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a case of I think Rob could have had, was it a 10 or an 11 dart opening leg?
He went down to a double 2.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden Nathan just sort of happily said, well, if you don't want it, I'll have a crack at it. And pop, pop, bang, as they say, pop, 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 as Mardle says.
He seemed fuming last night off the back of the match as well. Looked like he, don't know if you saw, looked like he stormed off stage, brought it back and went 4-3 up with the 6-4. Do you think that storming off is probably due to him thinking that I should have had it done and dusted off the back of that 1-6-4? Like, how did I actually end up losing that game and playing worse and still hitting that 1-6-4, which is actually meant to change the outcome of the match in some ways? Because that's the sort of thing that would. I mean, we speak about Luke Humphries when Luke Littler hit the big number and it spun his head a little bit. He's probably thinking, "Geez, I should have actually, gone for the jugular more off the back of that, and probably should have had a beating than Michael Van Gerwen."
Harry, the thing about it is, mate, before they even step foot on that wonderful big stage at whatever arena they're at, you know that it's first to 6. If you're on 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter. You've still got to get to 6. Frustrating, yes. Disappointing, yes. Of course it is. But the ultimate is to get to 6 legs. If you get to 6 legs, you're playing again. If you don't get to 6 legs, yes. I like it though, Harry. I like it that they show disappointment. I like it that they show disappointment and frustration. Not in an aggressive way or anything like that, but you can tell by their body language, their facial demeanour, everything, that they're not happy. And you shouldn't be happy if you get beat. There's ways about going around it. There's me saying all this, Jesus Christ. Listen, I did sulk. I never liked getting beat, and you shouldn't like getting beat. You're not there to make up numbers. He'll be frustrated, yeah, of course he will. But you know what? He'll go away, and he'll come back again even stronger next week.
Big shout
to put the wrongs to right.
I want to say a big shout out to Rob Cross as well. Some of the setup shots, excuse me, absolutely superb from Crossy. That double 18 again coming in clutch. I mean, like we've already said as well, you just have to feel for him with all of those tumbler checkouts from Luke Littler. Could we actually see Rob Cross edge into that top 4 playoff spot come May 29th?
Well, there's no reason why he can't, Harry. He's thrown some really good stuff at the minute, is Rob Cross. And you see him sometimes tell, "Come on, Bobby," and if he hits something stupid, Bobby, but he knows that he's playing really well at the minute, and he knows he's that dangerous player again, and the confidence is oozing out of him. So sure, why not? I mean, I think, me personally, Harry, I think the next 2, possibly 3 weeks will be very telling.
Yeah. For
a few players, very telling for a few players. We haven't brought up about poor old Bunty yet.
No, get into it next, mate. Don't you worry.
They'll be thinking to themselves, I need to get to the final. I've got to start getting big points. I can't just win one game because you're running out of time, Harry. And they know that. They don't need an old crony like me telling them that. And that's where the pressure comes from, Harry. That's where the pressure comes from, because poor old Bunty's searching for a point. Chris Doby will be thinking to himself, if I could just get a run going and get a few more points on the board, I've still got an outside chance. Asp will be thinking the same. And like you say, Robbie Cross is right on the fringe. Who's to say that he couldn't get into the top four?
He's getting points on the board at the same time as well. And you mentioned the two players there that are struggling for points on the board. Chris Doby, he had to take out that 65 against Rob Cross. The checking out just was not there from Doby. No. He's really struggling on the outer rim. Out in his opener in Belgium, I mean, he said he used the Pro Tour as practice, and he always does. He only picked up one win in Leicester. Winless in the Premier League since the opening night in Belfast, where he reached the final. Spot on, points on the board. Some of the social media reactions off the back of last night as well. Doby doesn't deserve to be in the Premier League, etc., etc. I like Chris Doby. I think his scoring power is top notch when he's on his game. I think he deserves to be at this level, Cole, but he needs points fast, doesn't he? He needs them.
Oh, he does need points fast, but so does Bunting, and so does everybody else. They all started off on 0, Harry. They've earned their place there, or some of them have got put there. Make the most of it. Don't look at social media for 3 months, 4 months, whatever it is. Don't listen to what people say. It shouldn't be there. Who'd you put in instead? Because whoever you put in instead, Harry, the public are still going to turn around and start fans. Well, he don't deserve it. Well, who deserves it then? And like Nathan Aspinall said it, and I've said it over the years as well, if you pick the top 8, you can't complain. People will complain because they'll say, oh, he should have been in it. He's done this, he's done that. Yeah, well, make your minds up. I know a lot of people were saying that it was unfair on Mike the Decker not getting in for winning the World Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Firstly, it didn't push him up high enough in the rankings. And secondly, Mike done nothing of any sort of note between then and the World Championships. Everybody knows that the Premier League's going to get picked just after the World Championships. Listen, should he have been in as one of the big major winners? Possibly. But that's not down to us. That's down to the powers that be.
Yeah.
That select and do that.
Well, I just got the order of merit back up, and so some of the names that I'm thinking about as well. I mean, Johnny Clayton, even he's been having. I'd say 2025 so far. He's been class. And he's always going to give you those big moments when, say, for instance, someone goes 3 legs up, and you almost back Johnny Clayton to come back and potentially win the game. I mean, win more World Masters against Luke Humphries this year. Top notch.
Yeah, I mean, Harry, that's spot on, mate. And you're exactly right what you're saying there. But he wasn't doing it when there was a selection up for grabs for the Premier League.
Is it a case of just they picked Doby off the back of reaching semi-finals of the Worlds, or?
Well, I think Chris had a decent year last year. And being that he got to the semi-finals of the Worlds as well, that played a very big part. But he'd had a very consistent year. He'd won a good few events on the tour last year. And so, listen, as soon as it's selected, people can have their opinions. The fans can have their opinions. They're entitled to that privilege. But once it's picked and it's locked in, it's done.
Yeah.
Let's just enjoy the darts week in, week out. You don't have to keep going on the attack to certain players. Because like I said just a little while ago, Harry, if you're feeling frustration as a fan, let's just have a little think how that player's thinking as well.
Yeah.
Because the frustration and the turmoil inside, you're thinking to yourself, I've been picked for this because I've been playing so well. Where's my form gone all of a sudden? And you start analysing things and over-analysing things about yourself. not only as a player, but as a person, what have I all of a sudden started doing wrong? You haven't started doing anything wrong. It's just pressure. Pure pressure, Harry. It's just pure pressure. That's all it is.
We have to remember as well, it's a mental week for Chris Doby this week, and it was I read a good piece in the paper. So he mapped out his entire week. So he'd come back from the Belgian Open. He had the Pro Tour in Leicester. Then he had the Premier League. He's at Cheltenham today for the Gold Cup. And then on Sunday, he's at Wembley for Newcastle versus Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final. So in some respects, you've got to give Chris Doby some credit. He's got a lot going on in his head at the moment.
Listen,
it's not just us. He wants to see Newcastle win their first trophy for about 500 years.
He's going to have a really disappointing week, isn't he?
Don't say that. Take the darts out of the equation, Chris Doby. If you're watching this, listen, I know it's been tough on the hockey for you. I just hope you get a winner at Cheltenham, Gold Cup, and Newcastle lift the Carabao Cup. Just for you and all of the Geordies, because, listen, they deserve it. They deserve it. Liverpool going to win the Premier League. Just let Newcastle win it.
Harry, do you know what, Harry? There'll possibly be people out there saying, instead of going to enjoy yourself down at Cheltenham, why don't you get on the practice board? Instead of you going down to Wembley, why don't you get on the practice board? I'm sorry, you may be a professional dart player, but you're not entitled to a life also.
Yeah.
He's a proud Geordie. He's going to go down and support his boys. And today is a day off, and he's going to go and have a nice day out of the races. Why not?
Imagine if Colchester United got to an FA Cup final, Cole, and you went, oh yeah, well, I just didn't fancy it. I thought I was going on the practice board instead. You'd get dogs abuse, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to see his team. He wants to see his team lift a trophy because, like I said, it's been. I think it's like what 1954 or something stupid like that. And I mean, I love that football club. I don't even support them, but I've got a real soft spot for the City and Newcastle Football Club as well. And I want Chris Doby to have a big smile on his face because he's a quality lad at the same time as well.
Yeah. Oh, listen, very much so, mate. I sat there, like I say, I keep telling you, don't I? I was there Tuesday and whatever. I had a couple of nice little chats with Chris. I had a nice couple of chats with Smudger, Ross Smith, Johnny Clayton. I had a nice catch up with Joe Cullen. A good few people. It's nice to be around those guys. And the nice thing for me is to see all these guys go about their business in their own certain way to justify as to being a professional dart player. They've all got their own ways of doing things, Harry. And listen, they do what works for them. And that's all you can do. Sometimes that engine, as we say, sometimes that engine will break down. And it's just a matter of how you fix it. And these guys, they're under constant pressure, under constant scrutiny from not only the likes of us, Harry, talking about darts and whatever, but also from the fans.
Yeah.
You know, and they have to justify that every single day. But listen, I'm just going to say this. Darts is in a great place at this moment in time. The boys that are going up on the stage, whether it be the Premier League, Players' Championships, Euro Tours, World Series, whatever, they go up there to entertain. They're trying their very best to not only entertain, but produce brilliant darts week after week. Sometimes let's just cut them all a little bit of slack. Let's just cut them a little bit of slack.
I agree. And if you think about where we're going to go to next, it's the other side of the Carabao Cup, and it's Liverpool. Stephen Bunting, we haven't really given him too much of a mention, but it needs to be discussed. No. The crowd really behind him last night.
Yeah.
He had so many opportunities early on to silence GERWEN Price. Head in hands, mate. I just had my head in my hands. I mean, like, missing out on leveling it with the 48. And then the fish in leg 8, oh, mate, it was absolutely electric. It was one of those moments where it was like you sort of believe in fairy tales and comebacks, and you thought, we're going to see a mammoth comeback from Stephen Bunting, but it just wasn't the case. 0 points going into week 7. And he's still got a smile on his face, and he's still playing some good stuff, Cole. I know it's recycled garbage from myself that I'm saying every single week. And all of the players in the Premier League and on the tour, I say but nothing but great things about him as well. But just needs to get over the line, doesn't he? I mean, it's just that focus, and it probably didn't help that his first game was against a GERWEN Price, and because obviously GERWEN was on fire yesterday, and he was giving it all being loud and stuff, and you could see the frustration on Stephen's face, where he was like, "For God's sake!" Like, but from former dart player to dart player Stephen Bunting, and I've probably asked you this already over the last couple of weeks. What is the solution? What is the remedy for him going into Cardiff and getting some points on the board? Because I know he's world number 5 at the moment, Stephen Bunting is, and he just needs to get into gear, doesn't he?
He's someone, Harry, that he's. I don't want to say he's a perfectionist, but Stephen likes to entertain with brilliance and also goes up there. He's a grafter. He's just got to remember, Harry, that he's number 5 in the rankings for a reason. He's been absolutely brilliant. He's in this Premier League. He's just not getting the rub of the green, as they say. He's averaging around the 98 mark after 6 weeks, but he's not getting over the line. And the longer it goes on, Harry, we've spoken about this before as well, the longer it goes on, the more pressure will build, because he'll be so relieved if he gets a win just to get those 2 points. He'll be over the moon. I just think he's put a little bit of pressure on himself, unnecessary pressure. He is someone I feel that doesn't need to justify as to why he's in the Premier League. He's earned that right. You know, he won the Masters and whatever last year. He's had a very good, consistent year, won a few events, and he's just been playing some great stuff. But like I said a little while ago, Harry, he's got every right. I'll say it like this. He's got every right to feel and think, what on earth has gone wrong? I've been playing so well, and yet I just can't find a win. I'll tell you what it is, Stephen. You are still playing so well, but you're just not getting over the line. Don't hit the panic button. You don't need to hit the panic button. The amount of times, Harry, this year so far, we've seen him with 98 plus averages, 100 plus averages, and he's still got beat. That should tell you that you're not playing bad. I know it's not what he wants to hear. They're not the words he wants to hear, because he just wants to win. Yeah. But you're not playing bad, son. Just keep doing what you're doing. It will turn around for you. The results will turn around for you. You've just got to stay positive, keep doing what you're doing, and it will come good again, because you're playing too well for it not to.
You got to think about, well, obviously, we speak about the human elements with Michael Van Gogh at the same time as well. Stephen Bunting as a newborn as well, and he's quite far away from his family every day of the week, pretty much. If we talk about the Pro Tour, we're talking about Belgium, we're talking about the Premier League, and I mean the human elements might play a factor in that as well. So, I mean, just for Stephen, I hope, because he's such a lovely human being, crowd favourite, and you want him to just excel and make himself, because he's probably going through a case right now where he's probably believing, even on world number 5, and like you've already mentioned, he'll probably have in his head that he probably doesn't deserve to be there. Listen, Cole, before we wrap up, some quick fire questions for you. Don't want to get off. Gerwin Price, is he officially under Luke Littler's skin, and is he the person that can get in Luke Littler's brain?
No, I don't think so. No, he's a class player, Gezi, but Luke Littler is someone that when players try some antics, you see a little grin come on Luke Littler's face, and then sometimes he produces like an 11-11 and a 12-dart leg. That's how much he thinks of that. No, I don't think. You've got to be a very sharp knife to get under Luke Littler's skin, I think.
It's bad to think, like, the mind games, and you're literally a 40-year-old man against an 18-year-old, and it's like you need like the sharpest tool in the shed to get over it.
Yeah.
And you think that, I mean, you had an 18-year-old in here right now. I'm only 28, but I feel like I can bully him to hell. Not Luke Littler, that is, because I love Luke Littler. But the mental aspects of it as well. Being 18 and coming up against a 40-year-old, and you saw it in Luke Littler's first World Championships when he lost to Raymond van Barneveld. I think it was Rob Cross as well. It just must have this mental edge where you're like, I'm playing a kid and I'm losing to a kid, no matter how good his ability is at the same time, and his ability is top notch. You must be thinking, Jesus, I'm literally getting shown up by a then 17-year-old. Right, quick one then. Gerwin Price praised him, obviously praised Luke Littler off the back of Gerwin picking up the nightly win in Nottingham. And I know I've asked this question a million times. Gerwin Price said he thinks he'll beat Phil the Power Taylor's record. And if Luke Littler doesn't retire early, Cole, is he going to surpass those 16 world titles?
Honestly,
if he doesn't jack it in, I know that we're going to have so many people coming through. We've got those young lads that are coming through. The Jack Jones, I think he's from Orpington, who's picking up some sort of like youth titles as well. You've got the young lad Jaden. You got the young lad Jaden down in Devon as well. Yeah. And the amount that he's going to inspire people and the amount of the average is going to go up. We're going to see more Luke Littlers. But if you look at it right now, is it just too competitive at the moment for Luke Littler to pull ahead, especially in world title sense?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail right on the head there. I don't. He could possibly get somewhere close, but the thing with Luke Littler as well, Harry, he likes doing other things away from the dartboard. You know, he's not. People have got to remember with Phil Taylor. Phil Taylor dedicated 30 years of his life to just darts. Luke Littler, I think, likes enjoying playing on his Xbox and FIFA and all that sort of thing, and he likes doing things that young lads should do. It just so happens that he's our world champion, excuse me, and a fabulous dart player. But will he get to Taylor's six? I don't think so. There's so much talent still out there, and there's so much more talent coming through as well. And I don't think he would dedicate his life to it for the next 30 years like Phil Taylor did.
Right, darts chat out of the way. Coley, you're over in Dublin. How many pints of the black stuff are you sinking this weekend? Because you're getting on it. You're at the exhibitions. You're on the Emerald Isle. St. Patrick's Day is approaching. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk me through your day. Suze always says to me, and when we went to Dublin for England versus Ireland, you know, like Spa off licence, which we have in this country, Spa in Ireland is a completely different kettle of fish. They have like a deli counter, so they have a baguette. They have a baguette, and you can get like a chicken fillet roll. And I won't lie to you, I when she said it to me, I'm not going to do an impression of the accent because it's not very good. She's like, you need to get a Spa fillet roll. It sounds American. It's terrible.
It was terrible.
It was so bad. Irish accents never been my forte. But when she mentioned that to me, I was like, I'm not getting a breaded sandwich from an off license. I'll end up coming out with some sort of new disease. Anyone that gets a sandwich from an off license needs to be arrested.
Harry, you don't know what you're missing.
I know. I've had one.
It's top drawer, mate. It's top drawer.
Might be like the best sandwich sub that I've ever had in my entire life. So, Cole, map it out for us. How many pints? What's going on this weekend for you? And what's going on in Dublin?
I landed here yesterday, and I was drinking. There's a nice Irish lager over here called Rockshaw. First time me drinking a bit of lager every once in a while, and it was nice. Watched a bit of Cheltenham with my pal Alan. Today we're going to watch a little bit more of Cheltenham, do a little bit tonight, and then we'll see how it pans out. I'm actually flying home on Paddy's Day. I'm actually flying home on Monday. So, I've got a few things I've got to do, get home for. So, but listen, Harry, don't you worry, my friend. I will have a couple of pints of the black stuff for you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, man. I ain't had a pint for a while because I said to you the other day that when I was moving out, and you went, I have a pint on me because I was going to try the new local. I ain't got around to going there yet. I've just been so snowed under. But listen, I had a McDonald's yesterday, and to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, They've got a Shamrock milkshake, so I think they only did it in America because it's all coming over here now. It was a mint chocolate chip milkshake, and I'll tell you what, I love mint ice cream. It was absolutely top draw.
All right, fair enough.
Is that all I get?
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's not something that excites me, something like that. I'd have the ice cream, mint chocolate chip ice cream, but I wouldn't have it as a milkshake, no.
Boo. Well, you just want I'll get you next time I see you. I'll get you a Guinness float. We'll get you a pint of Guinness and put a bit of vanilla ice cream in the top. How about that?
That sounds perfect.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back this time next week. Just a quick run through of the Premier League table. Luke Littler at number 1. Luke Humphries drops down to 2nd. Gezi Price up to 3rd. Michael Van Gerwen and 4th. And just below that line for the playoffs, Nathan Aspinall down to 5th. Rob Cross stays in 6th. Chris Doby stays in 7th. And Stephen Bunting, 0 points. I hate saying it again. 0 points for Stephen Bunting in 8th. Night 7, March 20th. The Utilita Arena, Cardiff. Quarterfinals are as followed. Kicking off, Chris Doby versus Stephen Bunting. Big clash at the bottom there. And, I mean, I love Chris Doby, but I hope that Stephen Bunting gets over the line. Luke Humphries versus Michael Van Gerwen. Luke Littler versus Nathan Aspinall. And Gerwin Price versus Rob Cross. Cole, whilst I've still got you,
Yeah.
quick fire predictions. Go. So Chris Doby versus Stephen Bunting.
I'm going to say Bunting's going to get points on the board.
Luke Humphries versus Michael Van Gerwen.
Oh, Luke Humphries.
Littler versus Nathan Aspinall. The two good friends.
Yeah, they are, but he seems to turn it on now, doesn't he, Luke Littler against Nathan Aspinall now? So I'm going to have to go with Luke Littler, I think.
Gerwin Price in his home country, home arena versus Rob Cross. Could you imagine? I mean, Crossy's been playing unbelievably. A whitewash.
Yeah.
You could just, even though I don't think that'd happen to Crossy, a whitewash in Cardiff would just blow the roof off, wouldn't it?
It would. Well, yeah, we'd hear it from London. I think that's a tough one for Gezi, really, because we know Rob Cross is playing well. Gezi, I'm saying that off of Gezi winning, obviously, last night. But it's great that he's playing down in Cardiff, but with that, Harry, comes just that little bit of extra pressure as well, because you always want to play well in front of your home fans. I think there's a little bit of momentum with Gezi at the minute, so I'm going to go with Gezi, but I think it's going to be 6-5.
Cole, thank you very much. We do it all again next week. We'll be coming to you from Cardiff, doing the show from Wales. Could you believe it? We're actually going on tour. I'll be doing a preview show with Josh Green, and make sure you subscribe to the talkSPORT Darts YouTube channel just down below, because we'll have all of the watch-alongs for you from Cardiff from our amazing darting team. This podcast is coming to you every single week from now until the end of May. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. If you've got any questions for Cole, I can ask you next week. So do that and have a good weekend. Ciao.